Today, let's take a look at the new Night Market Mythic, the Shattered Paths Signet, because this thing is pretty insane. It is really good right now in Update 49, and I think it's going to be even better in Update 50, and it may possibly be one of the best Mythics we have in game as of right now. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what it does. I'm going to show you how to get it, and also we're going to talk about how the devs have confirmed it will still be available even after the Night Market event ends. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. I farmed for hours yesterday and got lucky enough to get all of the leads. One of them is a bit of a pain. It took me forever for it to drop. Hopefully you have better luck than I do, but we'll get into that here in just a second. First up, let's take a look at what this mythic does. It increases your damage with status effects by 1% for every one ultimate you have, up to 170%. Now, if you're playing in PvP against other players, that percentage is halved. But in PvE, you're looking at 120 to 170% bonus status damage by just holding ultimate, which most players do naturally. Once you hit 170 ultimate, your light and heavy attacks start applying a random status effect every 4 seconds. So this is basically going to turn your basic attacks, your heavy and light attacks, into free DPS procs. So think of this with something like Chilled on a Warden, Shocked on a Sork, and kind of so on. It does apply minor Timidity, draining one ultimate every 1.5 seconds while you are in combat, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. If you're sitting on 150 to 300 ultimate in PvE, that drain is really not going to matter that much at all, and you still will maintain that massive uptime on the bonus. Like I said, this is really good right now in Update 50. I think, with the Arcanist, Warden, Sork, you could definitely do a pure class build, but probably those three, or maybe even throw in the Assassin skill line. With a subclass build, you're really going to see this thing shine. But I think when Update 50 launches and we get the new class mastery passives for the pure class builds, this thing may truly be best in slot at that point, because I think it's going to do really well with a pure class build with those buffs we're getting with those new passives. The devs have confirmed that once the event ends, after the 7 weeks is over, the Shattered Paths Signet will still be available. The only thing we don't know right now is how it's going to be available. They have not listed how you're going to be able to get that once the event is over. I would assume, and this is just kind of my guess, it's going to be something like we normally would see with a Mythic in game. You might get a lead from a dungeon, world boss, whatever. But once that information is released, I will make a separate video about that. I assume they'll probably talk about that after the Night Market ends. I know some players may not be able to get in and play as much to get the lead, or they may be solo players, so it may be more difficult for you to get. Just be aware, it will be available even after the Night Market event is over. Now let's talk about exactly how to get this. Now keep in mind, this is a brand new Mythic. There's a lot of variation out there. Some players are saying that they're getting it in different ways than I got the leads. So just be aware, you may be able to get some of these leads to drop in different locations. Luckily, ESO Hub did put out a map of the precinct, the Skittering Precinct, and that is where all of these leads come from. So I put 2 red arrows here, and shout out to ESO Hub for the map, but these 2 arrows are the 2 that I really want you to focus on, because this is where I had my best luck. But like I said, be aware, you may be able to get it from some of the other bosses inside of the Skittering Precinct. The blue boss there is the roaming boss, and the Belddereth Boss at the bottom there is one of the bosses that, of course, I had the hardest time to get the lead to drop, and we'll get into that here in just a moment. First up on the list is the Flickering Charcoal Rubbings. That comes from the Night Market Roaming Boss. So that blue boss there on the map is the roaming boss. You will see it kind of roam all over the map. Next is the Fractured Prismatic Gem. Some players have reported they got that from the roaming boss as well. For me personally, I got it from a glorious Night Market reward coffer. And of course you get those when you turn in your quest to your daily faction quest giver. So mine came from the glorious market reward coffer. The Starlight Oil comes from the Night Market roaming boss as well. The Ossein ring mold, I got this from a faction daily quest from the glorious Night Market reward coffer also. I'm not sure if you can get that to drop from any of the roaming bosses or the other bosses inside of this certain precinct, but for me personally, I did get that ring mold from a glorious Night Market reward coffer after I turned in another faction daily quest. And the Nugget of Aetheric Gold. As far as I know, all the reports I have seen for all these leads have kind of been mixed how players are getting it. But for the Nugget of Aetheric Gold, I've only seen players report one location that they are getting this from, and that is the Belddereth Boss, there at the bottom. This is a big spider that you have to fight. There's a lot of enemies around, of course, a lot of ads. This one took me a couple hours to actually get it to drop. I killed this thing over and over and over and just didn't have any luck. Now keep in mind, if you do go into the Skittering Precinct, or any precinct for that matter, and you not see these bosses spawned up, you will see the skull down there when they are available to kill. Sometimes you have to go in. From what I have kind of understood while playing this all day yesterday, is you see the lady and the flesh abomination there in green on the top and bottom. Once you kill those, it seems like the gray skull bosses that are the easier bosses out of all of them, that's when you see them pop up. So if you do not see the boss that you need, like the Belddereth one, you may need to go kill one of the two green bosses here marked on the map, the flesh abomination, or the lady, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last part of that, but those are more difficult bosses. And it seemed like once those were killed and I was just running around with a random group, we saw the other bosses start to pop into the game. Now, like I said, keep in mind, you may get these from other things inside of this zone. And if you're having problems getting these in general, I would recommend running around and killing all of these smaller bosses, because you can see there's 4 here available, plus the roaming boss. I did not get anything from the skirmish when I finished it, when it comes to leads anyway. I did get some really good items, but I did not get any leads. But like I said, some of these leads I already had, so they may drop in other locations. I'm just not aware of it if they do. But hopefully this kind of helps you out and gives you a general idea of where I was able to find them. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you have got this mythic yet. Of course, the Shattered Paths Signet is one that I highly recommend if you are running around in the night market. I recommend you try to get these leads. And like I said, if you are someone that is not able, you don't have time, or maybe you're a solo player, you don't have people to play with, you should try to go in to the night market and maybe find a random group like I did. But if you don't, that's fine. You will still be able to get this once the event is ended. Leave me a comment with your thoughts. Let me know what you think. I think this is a mythic that is absolutely worth grabbing, because it may be one of the better ones in the game. Leave me a comment with your thoughts. And of course, I'll catch you next time. Peace.